Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. I got a little hate mail here from someone named James.
Bonus show hate mail. It's it's getting touchy when members are sending hate mail, Lewis.
James says, so only the most expensive and exotic beers are worth drinking, and everything else is piss for morons. Thanks, progressives. If you're a member of the show and you don't consider yourself a progressive, that's, I guess, a true testament to our charm.
No, Lewis, but you know that's a joke, obviously.
I know. It's a joke. But this is what I would say. There are plenty of good beers that are affordable. It just so happens that the beers that taste better, in my opinion, happen to come from other countries and are imported, or and also are just more expensive and more time-consuming to make. So, hey, that's just that's the way of the world.
Now, Lewis, out of curiosity, Lewis, if you were just to buy a 6-pack of Allagash White, right, which is a Belgian-style beer, I think produced in Maine.
Right.
What does the 6-pack cost relative to a 6-pack of like Stella Artois, for example? Like, what is the actual price difference? Not at a bar, because I understand the establishments more likely to have one over the other might just overcharge for beers, you know?
I believe the Allagash would cost more.
Well, I know it would cost more, but what price difference are we talking about?
I don't know. We're probably talking about a $3 difference.
For a 6-pack, so 50 cents a beer difference. All right, I mean, you know, if you're having a 6-pack a day, that's going to add up pretty quickly. But really, if you're someone who, you go to the grocery store and you grab a 6-pack of something to have at home, we're not talking about hugely expensive drinks here, just to make that point clear, I guess.
Right. So anyway, maybe one day I'll list off some beers that are cheap that I think are really good.
That would be a good segment. I would like that.
Not today. Mexican cartels are diversifying.
Love it.
Perhaps in the face of looming pot legalization. I don't know about that, but a lot of these cartels are involved in all sorts of different drugs.
I also was reading, Lewis, because this is related, that even the legalization, like for example in Colorado, the legalization still doesn't impact the illegal drug trade because prices are so much higher when you're buying it legally that supposedly dealers are saying their business is still really good because they charge so much less than the official stores.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But the quality is probably crappier. Oh, maybe. Not necessarily. Anyway, this particular cartel, the Knights, they're called the Knights Templar, and I guess they're pseudo-religious. They have been getting involved in illegal mining, logging, and extortion. They say these three are their biggest money makers. And I guess times are kind of tough for a lot of cartels right now. They're losing a lot of members. Public view of a lot of these cartels is very, very poor. Public opinion. And it's just, I don't know, it's crazy that they're getting involved in these other things, but it seems to be profitable. It's kind of crazy that mining is one of these operations. Does this surprise you?
It does, because very often these groups like to get into businesses that have relatively lower overhead. So for example, extorting money for protection from businesses that already exist. You don't really need huge infrastructure from that. You just need to intimidate them. You need some guns, etc. That's like a very nice low overhead business. But mining, if starting from scratch, is very, very expensive. Now, is it possible, Lewis, that they're just involved in mining by extorting protection fees or in some other indirect way as part of the income?
No, I think they are illegally mining without the proper licensing or maybe even land. I mean, maybe just, occupying land illegally as well.
Yeah, well, that's a way to save money for sure. I mean, it's like selling cigarettes that you brought in New York City where they're really expensive that you brought in from other states. I read that more than half of cigarettes sold in New York have been illegally brought in from other states to avoid taxes. If you don't pay any licensing fees and just start digging, that's a pretty good way to save money.
It is. Yeah, it's pretty smart. Um, so, I mean, I guess a lot of the cartel's leadership has been arrested, and it's just a crazy situation in Mexico. I mean, I hope that eventually we will no longer see these cartels. But as we know, in places like Tijuana, the cartels rule, and that's the law. But I don't know. I guess in some other places, cartels are falling on hard times and have to do some logging. A Massachusetts town has just lifted a 32-year-old arcade game ban. Um, so yes, Massachusetts is not necessarily the progressive bastion we all thought it was. The town's name, I've never even heard of the town, Marshfield. Have you heard of Marshfield?
I have heard of Marshfield. Yeah. Now, is this one of those old blue laws that have remained in parts of New England that is not really a representation of kind of the modern attitude towards whatever it is the law relates to?
I wouldn't necessarily call it one of those blue laws. It's a bit newer than that. Most of those laws are pretty old. This one was introduced in 1982. It almost went to the Supreme Court when business owners challenged it. And it was voted in by residents who feared that arcade games would bring an undesirable element to the small town.
It's just so funny to hear that because now there's a huge debate in Massachusetts over the placement of casinos and what element that might bring.
Yeah.
And comparatively, having Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in your bar is just such a non-issue relative to really the impact of a huge multi-million dollar casino, right?
Oh, it's never been an issue anywhere. Shockingly, this was upheld in 1994 and in 2011. Can you believe this?
Well, no, I mean that's not surprising because it doesn't sound like that the law is unconstitutional, right? Towns have leeway.
No,
to,
but I mean,
that so recently people still thought that it was something to keep out. Yeah, that
Right,
is
right.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they just lifted it, and there are some comments here from people. The fewer distractions of that type, the easier it is to transfer my ideas and values to my youngster. That's what one resident said. Crazy stuff. I was sitting thinking, why is this illegal in my town? To have fun with my friends. Yeah, I guess this was right around the time that Mrs. Pac-Man was coming out. I think. Not really sure. Anyway, there's that new in the town we're from on the next town over. There's a new place that is an arcade with it's a bar too with beer and good beer, liquor, high-end cocktails.
Well, the funny thing about that place, Lewis, is number one of the owners is a viewer of this program. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. And has a David Pakman Show t-shirt, which he wears sometimes. But also that a bunch of people, when this news broke, were posting to his Facebook page that now they should look at a second location in Marshfield.
Yeah. And it's a bar that has lots of the classic arcade games. And it just blows my mind that there are probably still people out there who think that is like a menace to society, like a breeding ground for gangs or something. Who knows?
Well, in Brooklyn, there's this barcade, which is pretty well known, and it's like the most hipstery, low-key, opposite of any kind of place where there would be violence type of location, with by the way, overpriced hipster beers, I might add.
Yeah. Like who wants to get into a fight when you're completely in the zone playing a video game? It's pretty much impossible. Anyway, yeah, I love arcades. Who doesn't love a good arcade? There's some pretty great ones in Austin too. All right. This story is from Dan, our good friend Dan. It's about a band that I've never heard of. The band is called Wolfpack. All right, Michigan-based band. I guess they have a pretty big fan base. They managed to milk Spotify for $20,000 based on how many songs of theirs were played, to the tune of 0.007 cents per song. So they were not happy with this incredibly low rate per song. So they decided to make an album, post it on Spotify, an album of a bunch of 30-second songs because a song has to be at least 30 seconds long to qualify to be on Spotify. And it's 30 seconds of silence. And they told all their fans to just continuously play that album while they're sleeping, just to see what happens. It ended up netting them about $20,000 before Spotify became aware of what was happening. That means that their fans listened to over 2.8 million silent tracks to hit the number. And if we, I'm going to use my calculator real quick here, and I'm going to find out how many minutes, hours, whatever, that actually comes out to. But what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's pretty silly. It seems that on the one hand, they figured out a way to game the Spotify system. On the other hand, you could argue that maybe Spotify's rates are too low. I've seen some of the publishing, kind of like the fee schedules that smaller bands have posted from what they get from Spotify, and sometimes it might be like $10 for an entire quarter. I don't know. I don't know really how I feel about this. I mean, it seems that today the majority of the money bands make is from touring. So anything that helps them become more well-known so they can do more concerts is going to make them money. I do understand that big companies really have a lot of these small bands over a barrel in terms of how much they're going to pay per play or whatever. If you want to participate on Spotify, you kind of have to agree to their terms. So I'm pretty mixed on it.
Yeah. Well, we've got something like over 85 million seconds of audio. But anyway, back to the story. I guess some of the motivation for this was that they promised a free tour using the money they earned from this whole thing. But I think it's pretty funny. I don't really know if I would say that whatever Spotify is paying probably isn't fair. 0.007 seconds per play. It seems like Spotify is making a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with this, Lewis, is, it's kind of like the YouTube situation. It's widely known that YouTube partners keep 45% of the ad revenue for ads shown on their videos, and Google keeps 55%. And a lot of people say that that's just really not fair. But who can do anything? YouTube by itself is one of the biggest 3 search engines in the world. Can you just say, I'm going to pull all my videos off of YouTube? Then you'll get zero, you'll get 100% of almost nothing. And that's not really worth very much to people.
Right. Well, yeah, at least they're paying. I don't know. Whatever. Who knows? But yeah, Wolfpack is the name of the band, and pretty clever. But I think it's going to be a lot harder to pull this off now that they have successfully trolled Spotify. Good for them. They got 20 grand out of it. Anything to add, David?
It's big Friday show tomorrow / today. Our audience will know all about it sooner than everybody else. The members will. Exciting stuff.
Very exciting. Thank you, David. Good to be on Friday. Let us know how you like the show.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.